Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In Magic the Gathering Arena, let's have another look at my stadium, Strixhaven Stadium deck. And in the previous one, I showed a different commander from usual in using the Tamio Planeswalker. But I thought it was kind of silly to show the kind of the different version and not show the original. So let's have a look at Rigo here. And then I might call him Riga. That's his name in the Japanese. But in the English, it's Rigo. Not sure why they made that change. But advantages to Riga. And then if you want to see the deck list, you can check out the previous video. I'll link to that below. Advantages to him are he just costs less mana to cast. And we can actually cast him with all white. And then he's also not a threat, so he doesn't really draw attention. So like, I don't really need to use effects to protect him, you know? Whether it's hexproof or whatever. If he dies, it's almost like, doesn't affect my game plan at all. But he also enters the field with a shield counter, which is surprisingly strong. It can soak up spells, you know, like destroy spells. It can survive sweepers and things. I think Exile is still going to get rid of him immediately, but it makes him an undesirable target. So people will leave him alone for that. And then in certain cases, he can kind of draw cards for you more consistently than the other two. I wasn't able to show off Tamio, but if you activate her first skill, and then if you attack with somebody, then you can draw a card, or two. But with... oh, and then they have to do combat damage to the player. But with Riga, you know, somebody just has to attack. They don't even have to hit anybody, and you can draw the card. It's limited to 1 per turn, so that's kind of no good, but it's better than 0. But yeah, I use the Moon Silver statue or whatever it is. That's a tutor that I can use to immediately grab the stadium, so now I have that in my hand. And then you can probably tell by the title of the video or by the artwork on the left there. But the commander that I'm thinking of upgrading to is Chulain, who I think is agreed to be one of the better commanders in the entire game. But I was looking at commanders with white, green, blue color identity, and there are almost 0 that would be really good for enabling my kind of stadium win. But Chulain gets us there. We'll talk about him when we get to that match. Looking at my cards, debating if I want to pay the life or not. Alright, there goes the stadium. And then I can spend 1 blue, put out the Fairy Seer, and then I'll still have enough mana to cast the Heroic Intervention. That will give hexproof to all of my permanents, so that will include the stadium, which is very important. Oh, and Fabricate there, that was a new card that I crafted for this deck. That will let me look through my library to grab an artifact. But I already have the artifact I want, so I don't need it. We can put it away. I also have a Cyclonic Rift in hand. Very powerful card. I don't think I'm going to buy it in paper, though. For one thing, it's very expensive. And for another, there are a couple of other cards that I already have that can kind of do similar effects. So yeah, I can live without it. But people do not like the Cyclonic Rift. Oftentimes when I use it in games, the other player will just quit afterwards. Okay, let's attack. Let's get some counters on the stadium. Play a land. I love this Watcher here. Just a 1/1 flyer, but when it dies, it draws a card. So, very cool. And manually tapping, so I don't tap the stadium. The game gives priority there. Okay, Thrumming Bird. If it does combat damage, it will proliferate. And that's another benefit of using Rigo, is that he can benefit from proliferate. I don't have a lot of it in this deck. I'm wondering if I want to put more in there or not. But yeah, you can put multiple shield counters on him. And so he can, discourage you from using spells. He can block guys forever. As long as they don't have trample, he can block them effectively. So yeah, there are advantages to using Rigo over Chulain. But yeah, Chulain is definitely the more high-powered commander, and he just kind of makes you helps you develop your board faster. And like I said, my paper magic friend, he has very, very high-level decks, so I need to raise my power level to put up a decent fight. So Chulain maybe will be a step in that direction. Okay, let's do some more attacks. And then the Watcher, I want to hold him back so that he can block, maybe die, get me to draw a card. But thankfully, he also has Vigilance, so we can attack and then block the next turn. Alright, and then there we got the Proliferate ability from Thrumming Bird. So now Rigo has 2 shield counters, and then the Stadium has 7 counters there. And I got even more flyers out. The Sky Crier, I can spend mana to have both me and the opponent draw a card. Almost never use that ability, but it's there if I want it. And then he has lifelink too. I'm not really worried about life gain with this deck, but it's an option. Nope. Sultai Charm, he will destroy my artifact, my Stadium. But we'll put in Heroic Intervention, give it hexproof, and Indestructible. And yeah, that'll extend to all of my guys, so that any of them can be a super chump blocker. Unfortunately, the Watcher, though, cannot die now, though. Alright, he's going to put the boots on his Galta. That has trample, so that's going to bother me. But I have enough mana for the Cyclonic Rift, just the single type of cast. And we can get rid of his Galta. Alright. Yeah, nice to have that versatility on that card. Okay, all my guys have Invincible, Indestructible, so we'll just block. No damage there. Alright, and then I have the attackers to get the Stadium win, so they'll quit. That's maybe a faster game, with the Stadium win using Rigo. And then next we can look at Chulain. And we'll look at maybe a kind of a typical run for him. But pretty much same cards here, I think. Oh, and I am using like Dig Through Time and then Treasure Cruise in my paper deck. But I'm also building a self-mill deck, which would more benefit from those cards, so I actually took them out of my paper Rigo Stadium deck. Because one thing that I'm considering with the Stadium decks is to include more white cards, which are like, they prevent stuff from happening. We'll see it later in this match, but like, oh, there it is, the Strict Proctor. He can prevent abilities from going off for effects on entering the battlefield. And I was wondering if I wanted to put more of those in there, just to kind of hamper the opponent and then give me more time to get my Stadium win. But stuff like opponents' cards come into play tapped, or cards from graveyards can't be played, or yeah, entering the battlefield effects don't work. And like none of those would affect my strategy, my deck, because I don't really include any of those effects. That would make me very annoying to play against, but... Alright, let's put out the stadium. Maybe it's a little early because he's got more creatures out than I do, but whatever, I have the mana. But yeah, I am going to, if I do include more cards to sort of like hamper my opponent, I'm going to draw a line, you know? I'm not going to play something where like, you know, lands don't untap or stuff like that. But yeah, little things that don't affect me but affect the opponent. Maybe I can play those. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but I bought a box of Time Spiral Remastered, and then I filmed the opening of the packs there. I wanted that box because I wanted Yawgmoth, and then I wanted the old frame cards. I'll link to that below as well. But one of the cards in there is the Aven Mindbender or Mind Sensor. Aven Mind Sensor. What that will do, that's pretty funny. It will, if somebody is going to search their library, the Mind Sensor will stop them so that they can only search the first 4 cards of their library. So like tutors will suddenly only be able to look at the top 4 cards. I'm going to add that to this deck, to the paper version of this deck. It breaks one rule of my deck. It has 2 power. I want all of my guys to have 1 power. But I feel like that ability is so good that I want to include it. But yeah, a lot of my paper decks, they're very kind of heavily leaning towards Time Spiral Remastered cards, just because I got that box and I have so many, and there are a ton of good cards in there. And it makes me want to buy another box of something. But the Time Spiral Remastered set, that's considered a Masters set, I think. So it has kind of like, you know, better cards than maybe your average, you know, core set or whatever. So if I were to buy a box, maybe I'd want it to be on a similar kind of power level, I guess you could say. Like another Masters kind of a thing. Modern Horizons 3, which just came out, that might be an option. Modern Horizons 2 is tempting. I also want to buy maybe Lord of the Rings. That's really tempting. Yeah, maybe I'll look on Amazon and then see what kind of Masters boxes they have. And if I do buy another box, I will film that too, maybe. Okay, so we are playing against a deck which actually has a lot of enters the battlefield effects, but the Strict Proctor can counter all of them. So this is kind of a good match for me. It's really slowing him down. Slowly I am building my board so I can get out more flyers and stuff. Okay, finally, let's cast Chulain. I typically don't like to cast my commanders until I have some kind of protection for them. Like these boots, which give hexproof, or in my black decks, you know, instants that cost 1, where it says stuff like if your commander dies, or if your creature dies, you can return them to the battlefield immediately if you use this spell. But I was actually kind of debating if I wanted to leave the boots on the Strict Proctor just because he's doing so much work here. And this got me wanting to have like 2 pairs of boots in this deck. Alright, that's kind of scary. But I do have a Death Touch guy. The Needle Thorn Drake, so that's helping to protect me. And I was looking at this Strict Proctor and then comparing him to other creatures or whatever that kind of do a similar effect. And I was wondering if like the Strict Proctor was strictly worse because the opponent has the option to pay 2 to have the effect actually happen, while the other ones are free. It just happens automatically. But I read it more closely, and then the Strict Proctor, he can prevent effects from any permanent entering the battlefield, while other cards that have a similar effect only work on creatures or creatures and artifacts or whatever. So in that sense, the Proctor is actually covering more possibilities. Okay, but here we're kind of entering the Chulain loop. We'll cast a creature. That'll enable us to draw a card, and then we can put out a land from our hand to the field. And sometimes that can get us more mana, enough mana to cast another creature. We can repeat the process there. But yeah, building my board here. We'll attack with the Proctor, put another counter on the Stadium, and then I don't have the mana for the Teferi's protection, so if they do target my Stadium, I'll be in trouble here. They're playing in green, so they should have some artifact removal. But yeah, they have enters the battlefield effects from like enchantments and creatures. The artifact too, I think, the Great Henge. But the Proctor is taxing them all. I'm trying to find this card in paper, but I can't find it, actually. I'll keep an eye out. But I told my paper magic friend that I want to go to Tokyo, Akihabara, with him to go to all of the magic, the card stores that they have there. And he was like, oh yes, let's do that. Gonna bring a stack of cash, because there's a lot of stuff that I want. Oh, they also have, what is it, the Pelt Collector? Proctor can block his effects as well. Too good, this card. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, my friend, he likes to get like foils or like alternate artwork versions, and that's kind of had an influence on me, so now when I'm buying singles, I'm trying to focus on foils. Oh, there's a new legendary creature you can use as a commander from the Modern Horizons 3, the Nadu. Looks like a bird. It's blue-green, and it has, like, effects. I forgot what they are, but, like, they can kind of, like, infinitely loop pretty easily. He's too powerful. I've played him, like, 3 times here on Arena, and I've disliked every encounter with him. Okay, so I have a lot of flyers. He's only got 1 blocker with reach, and we're within striking distance of getting the stadium win. So let's attack with all my flyers. We'll leave Chulain behind. He'll block my Strict Proctor, which is the right choice, but doesn't matter. We'll get the stadium win. Okay. But yeah, I love this deck. Yes, I did enjoy that match. This is the deck I've been playing probably the longest and the most in this Arena account. Alright, thanks for watching. We'll see you again. Take care.